we should be reflecting these storylines in a period piece. Queer relationship would have existed back then, and it very much exists now.
Welcome back to Reign with me, Josh Smith, and we're in our brand new home. And today we are joined by the star of Queen Charlotte, the new Bridgerton prequel series, which will have you clutching your pearls. It's Sam Clemmett. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I am so good.
Good. Thank you for having me on and into your new studio.
Welcome.
I get to christen it, I hear.
I'm so excited to have you on because I am high-key obsessed with Queen Charlotte.
You enjoyed?
Did I enjoy the emotional roller coaster that I went on watching that show?
I told you.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot to take on. But you are playing the young Brimsley, who people will know already from Bridgerton.
Yes.
Walk me through the Brimsley that we meet in this show, though, because he's got a little bit of a past we might not necessarily expect.
Yes. So we know very little, I suppose, about Brimsley from the Bridgerton era. That the brilliant Hugh Sachs plays, and we see the younger Brimsley in this origin story of Queen Charlotte. And he is the butler to the Queen, and she has come over from Germany to marry the King.
Yeah.
And then, as the series progresses, we see more of how his relationship with the Queen develops, and starting to hint towards the relationship that the older Brimsley and the older Queen have. And then learn a bit more about him as a person and this relationship that he has with the Kingsman, Reynolds.
Well, that kicks off.
That kicks off out of nowhere.
Does kick off out of nowhere.
Were you expecting it?
Maybe not at that moment. I was like, wow, they're really ruffling the ruffs here, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Hammer and tongue. Well, we are going to get on. There are going to be some plot spoilers in this episode. So
if you've not seen it, hang on and see it first before listening to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's so amazing to watch the show as a queer person and see a queer relationship front and centre between Brimsley and Reynolds, which we love to see. I literally love seeing it. And it's very special to have that on our screens, especially it being the first ever queer relationship that's really, really given a lot of depth and discussion within the
Bridgertonverse,
Bridgerton world. So how special was that for you to bring that to screen?
Yeah, it was really special, and I felt very honoured that Shonda had entrusted me with the role of younger Brimsley, and being able to see this queer relationship blossom within this show, this inclusive world that Shonda has created so brilliantly. And I felt very, very empowered being able to tell this part of the story.
And whilst the representation is so important, it is so great to see it, there is definitely, and there's no escaping, there's a debate at the moment about who should be getting to play certain roles. And I think a lot of people watching this or watching the show will feel that this is a role that should go to a queer actor. And I think being a straight man playing this role, it's important that we definitely address that head on. So for anyone who is watching this or has had those concerns after seeing the show, what would you want to say to them about the way that you've approached it?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I love and respect the LGBTQ plus community. And I think it's incredibly important to continue to have this conversation. I think when it comes to authenticity and representation and equal opportunities for everyone in the entertainment industry, it's incredibly important to have these discussions, and that's why I would love to have this discussion today. But as I've said, I feel honoured that Shonda has entrusted me with this part. I think it's really important for anyone that doesn't identify as the role they're playing, per se, that it's handled with respect and integrity and sensitivity, because we're dealing with human beings. As actors, our job is to study human behavior. I mean, that's literally what we do on a day-to-day basis. I'm obsessed by people watching and just what's going on in that life and what's going on in that life, and just taking tidbits, whether it's how someone talks or how someone holds themselves physically. And so when it came to myself approaching this role, I wanted to focus on what it was that was the prerogative in his life, first off, which is his duty. And it's his duty to serve the Queen, and that's who he is. And the more I dived into this relationship between him and Reynolds, started, because again, we would get the scripts episode by episode and we didn't have everything at the beginning. I was learning as Shonda was writing and she was learning about the character. I was really starting to learn about the isolation that the younger Brimsley goes through within the show. And I think the more I've now watched the show in its entirety, actually everyone is very isolated within these roles back then. So this theme of isolation is so huge within this world. And his relationship with Reynolds is born out of the fact that he doesn't have anyone else. The only downtime he gets, and he doesn't get much downtime at all, is with him. And sometimes it's the power play between the two, and he wants to find out information from Reynolds and vice versa. But what they do have is not just this beautiful physical attraction, but they become each other's emotional support system. And that was absolutely my main focus and my main way into this element of his storyline, was this person seeking solace in someone else that lives a very isolated life. And dealing with the scenes as and when they came and when we were shooting them, it was all about the given circumstances in that moment and focusing on the objective. And then within that, if it's touching on the romantic storyline, it's making sure, and we had a continuous conversation with the director and with Freddie, who plays Reynolds, that we are dealing with it in a very respectful manner. And I hope that people feel like we've achieved that. And that was always my intention.
Yeah. And I think that definitely comes across, because
I hope so.
My personal opinion about it, being someone from the queer community, is that if it's someone doing it in a sensitive way, I have no problems with a straight guy playing a queer role, because, you know, Cate Blanchett's very amazingly played many queer roles. And then you have at the other spectrum of it, say, for instance, James Corden playing a very, very sort of like pastiche version of what camp looks like and should, and what he thought camp was like in the prom, which was borderline offensive. Whereas this is such a sensitive, and it's so beautifully done that for me watching it, I don't see how there can be any criticism drawn towards it, because like you're saying, it comes from this place of he's an isolated character and the relationship kind of forms off the back of that.
It's so wonderful, I think, as you've already touched on, seeing a queer relationship within this very, very inclusive world that Shonda has created and continues to create and continues to expand. And I really hope that everyone watching it feels as empowered as we did.
Yeah. And that's what's so special about it, because it is a relationship which exists so at the same time as the King and Queen's relationship and every other relationship in the show. So it's not necessarily seen as or pegged as this is a queer relationship. And that's kind of where I feel like we need to get to with representation full stop, is we're just saying this is relationship. And if you're going to play a character and you're going to do it sensitively, everyone should be able to play who they want to play. And if you've got the talent and the skills to do that.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that whenever we tell stories nowadays and how we receive entertainment, these stories, regardless of the period in which they are set, have to reflect the society in which we live and we want to live. And I feel like with all of Shonda's work, that's what she's so brilliant at doing. You know, this is loosely based around history, but it's a fictional piece, and she's intentionally made this story the way she has.
And we're also getting into a very difficult territory if we start auditioning people only based on their sexuality too, because that's also a very intrusive thing. Say, like, for instance, if you were going to play a role, or if I was a gay actor and I was going to play a role, and they went, well, we just check that what your sexuality is before that?
Really insensitive. Yeah. It's really, really insensitive. And I firmly disagree with that way of casting. I mean, it can absolutely be a conversation within the way someone casts a show, but that's not the way to go about this, you know.
And I think especially in this universe, in the Bridgerton universe, where Shonda Rhimes has really pushed and really changed the way that we cast and look at costume dramas, I feel like it makes this debate kind of null and void in a way, because you do kind of see all these different people getting to play different roles in a way that we never done before. So it's not even just blind casting, it's intentional casting at the same time.
Absolutely intentional casting. With every role that she has created, she's gone, nope, this is how we cast that role. And it doesn't need to fit some sort of historical fact. It's loosely based on that, and we will tell the story that we want to tell, to reflect these characters' lives in the most beautiful and truthful way possible.
And I think what's so interesting about it is to see a queer relationship existing in the 19th century is so amazing, because I feel like when I watch queer love stories on TV, they mostly exist from like the mid 20th century onwards. And they always exist in a prism of, for instance, being told through moments of crisis or really negative tones through like the HIV crisis, which obviously needs to be shown on screen.
Absolutely.
But it's also so refreshing to see a relationship that predates that period, and B is a very positive one as well. And it kind of reminds everyone who's watching this that queer people have been here since day dot.
Human beings are human beings, and love is love, and love has existed in all of its possibilities, for the want of a better phrase, since day dot. I firmly believe that. So we should be reflecting these storylines in a period piece, because of course a queer relationship would have existed back then, and it very much exists now. So let's see it. Let's see it and love it and feel it and hear it in a period drama. It's so important.
And there is one bit which I need to talk about off the back of what you just said, because I know I also might quite actually think about this because it very emotionally affects me watching it. And this is a spoiler. But in the last episode where the king and queen throw the ball and everyone's dancing, everyone's having a jovial time, rocking their corsets with the wigs, everything.
Yeah, marvellous.
Brimsley and Reynolds are off dancing in the shadows
they sneak
on their own.
Have a moment,
And then it then cuts to Brimsley, older Brimsley, dancing on his own. Like, I'm literally like holding back the tears thinking about this. That moment is so special because there's still in this society today so many relationships and so much love that is still existing in the shadows. And queer people have existed in the shadows for so long in terms of history, because history's told through a patriarchal viewpoint. And so to see that shown on screen and dealt with in such a sensitive way is so powerful. What was that like to shoot that scene?
I mean, I remember reading it for the first time and being blown away about how beautiful it was. I mean, it's such a small moment, but it is so beautiful, and it really does like speak a thousand words. But actually shooting it was kind of chaos, and that's nothing to do with the storyline. It's the fact we were doing it at 20 to 4 in the morning. We'd done a long night shoot, and we were meant to have a good hour to shoot this moment, and we got round to it and we're like, right, we haven't got much time. So we channeled our energy back. We know what we're doing. We know the story we're telling. Try and remember the dance moves, and went with it. And I actually think it added to the performance, because it is two people sneaking off and having, as they always have, no more than 20 minutes. And sometimes that's a push.
Yeah.
And just
they get a lot done in that 20 minutes.
Get a lot done in the 20 minutes. Don't hang about. But it's them just taking a moment and being able to look in each other's eyes and be present with each other while everyone else is having their jolly old time with it. And I think that energy really added to that moment and what it's become. Even though it was chaos on set, when we were doing it, it just felt right, I suppose. And there was people crying off the camera. It was a really sweet moment. And then me and Freddie went to watch Hugh do his moment on his own, and that was then about 10 to 4 in the morning, and full on blubbed because it was so beautiful. And Hugh's he's so wonderful to work with and so easy to work with and learn from. And I'm very, very lucky to have him to look up to, and I really realised it in that moment, because we then went back to the hotel afterwards, and we were sat outside this hotel in Oxford for 2 hours just chatting, and went, 7 o'clock, we have to go to bed. But we were so emotionally stimulated from what we just shot. We couldn't let any of it go. We just had to talk about it more and more and more. So that's a very long-winded answer of going, it was amazing and chaotic and just sort of perfect. Yeah.
And it is perfect.
I'm glad you think so.
Like, honestly, it's such an impressive and incredible moment. And there's no escaping that Bridgerton is very well known for the sex scenes.
Yes.
And
yes,
you definitely do have a few sex scenes of your own.
We do, yep.
In this.
We do.
How did you prepare for tackling that aspect of Brimsley's and Reynolds' relationship?
So we have a brilliant intimacy coordinator and her team in Lizzie Talbot and Lucy Fennell, and Lucy was on set with us every time there was some sort of intimate scene. It's a closed set, so there's less people on set, and having the intimacy coordinator there to iron out the way the scene's going to be run makes it a very respectful and calm set, and we're then able to do our jobs. And there's like there's contractual things in terms of like an intimacy rider where you go, this is what I'm happy with, this is me setting out what I'm comfortable to do and comfortable to show, and Freddie does the same thing, and you know, India and Koi will also do the same thing. So we already know the boundaries on the day. And the director very brilliantly and Lucy as well goes, and if anything needs to change on the day, or you're not comfortable about something, that's fine. And if you want to watch a shot back to make sure you're happy with this moment, that's fine. So it's a really, really fluid situation. And because they then create such a respectful environment, you can focus on the work you're meant to be doing in the scene. If we're talking about then the first scene that we have, it's a power play. It's me trying to get information from Reynolds, and Reynolds not willing to disclose it. And then you add all the layers onto that and it becomes really heated and really sexy. But to be able to create that, you have to have that very open and respectful environment. And that's absolutely how they go about shooting everything in the Bridgerton world.
And it's the opposite of sexy in real life.
I mean, it's absolutely the opposite of sexy in real life. I mean, like you might before a take go, can I have a mint? Let's have a quick mint, because I don't feel good about this. I feel like I've got coffee back. So it's little things like that, because me and Freddie are such close friends. We became such close friends so quickly. You just have a laugh with it, because you go, this is all a bit silly, all a bit ludicrous. And that energy, that sort of bubbly energy, again, just adds to it, and like the physicality of how them scenes work as well.
And those scenes aren't there just for the sake of it. And I think that's what makes Bridgerton so great, in that the sex scenes are there for a narrative purpose.
Yeah.
And they are 100%, as you've been saying, there for a narrative purpose in terms of Brimsley and Reynolds. But as a human, you as a human being who's shredding that character, you still have to get naked on screen, and you have to do these sex scenes. And I guess it's a very vulnerable place to have to go to. But there is so much power in leaning into our vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Isn't there? Did it kind of empower your relationship with your body image in a new way, do you think?
Oh, totally. I mean, I was really nervous before doing it, because it's the first intimate scene I've ever done on stage, on screen. So I didn't know how the day was going to play out, even though we've been told everything beforehand. This is how it's going to work, and this is all you have to do. You don't have to do any more than you've said. I defy anyone not to still be nervous. And again, it's like, worried about how I'm going to look and how I'm going to feel in the moment and how I'm going to feel watching it back. But as soon as you just start playing the scene and focusing on the acting and your objective for your character in that moment, all of that sort of vulnerability goes, or you sort of forget about it. And it's that in itself empowers you to be, or empowered me anyway, to feel like, actually, I'm more comfortable in my body and my own skin than I thought I was. So yeah, as nerve-wracking as them scenes are, I think I did take away a lot of confidence in myself and how I feel in myself.
What a gift to be given.
Such a gift, yeah. And again, because the scenes are so brilliantly written by Shonda, I mean, that scene is fantastic. I remember reading it through in the read-through for everyone, and people coming up afterwards going, "That's such a good scene, such a good scene, so many layers to it." I was like, yeah, it really is. And when you've got all that in amongst the intimacy stuff, it makes your job easier and a lot more fun, and empowers you to feel good about yourself.
And the element of the story, which is very powerful and goes throughout the whole series, across all the different characters, is this idea of touch.
Yes.
And I really noticed this, especially in the scene where Brimsley is like kind of trying to like nudge up to Reynolds, and then like
the unspoken
scene, and when Brimsley wants to go and comfort Queen Charlotte, but just holds his hand. but still keeps very far back. But she knows that touch is there and that comfort.
Oh, I'm
is
so
there.
glad you love that scene. I'm so glad you love that scene.
I was like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah, it was a very that particular one with the Queen was a really intense day, because there's so much going on with India, or with Queen Charlotte for India at that point, and subsequently for Brimsley as well. And I think that particular moment and that gesture and everything that's going on internally is absolutely the foundation of their relationship and what they mean to each other. And she's so aware that he is there for her in that moment, and that is them forevermore. And it's so lovely to hear that you got such a touching sense out of that scene.
Yeah.
And then the scene with Freddie, this idea of touch. We had an historian come in and just talk us through the day-to-day life back in the Georgian period, and she did talk to us about this idea of touch and what it meant to have moments being able to have human contact and skin-to-skin contact. That meant even more to someone because everyone is covered up in these beautiful, beautiful costumes. Have these intimate moments with people, which didn't really happen unless they were behind closed doors, mean the world to them. And their relationship is quite hostile at that point. We've had a lot of bickering. He's not telling me stuff with what's going on with the king, and I'm trying to tell the Queen to sort her, or to make her understand what's going on that side of the palace.
They've had a right domestic, basically.
And they've had a right domestic, and Brimsley's trying to sort it out, and you're not helping, and I can't help you, and I'm frustrated. And they come together when the King and the Queen get together, and he nudges up to him and just touches him and tries to sort of reconcile in that moment without saying anything, because they are still on duty. There are still footmen down the corridor, and the King and Queen are right behind them in the bedroom. So it's another little touching moment without anything spoken. That's a lovely point about the series. I remember Tom saying to us when he was in the edit, he said some of my favourite moments are all of the unspoken segments, and there's so much of that's just scored, and there's no dialogue that we hear, and it's being able to see the story told through the physicality of touch and what that means to people back then. I think they are some of the most special moments in the show.
You deliver the lines really well, but those moments blur a bit. I was like,
just stop talking. Just stop talking. Everyone shut up.
The key co-star we just need to touch on before we finish is Pom.
Pom. So
how did dog handling go for you?
Well, I didn't have to do much. Like, the dog was extraordinary. I think she was, I might get this wrong, but she was a puppy. I think she was like 15 weeks old when we started.
Oh my God, she's a child star.
Oh, she's a child star. I mean, anytime she was on screen, I'm lost. I haven't got a chance. I went, oh, the dog's back. Oh, the whole dog. She's going to steal the show. So she was very, very young. And the most well-trained little pup I've ever come across, she was called Victoria. And we had a real bond, and she behaved very, very well on set. And I can't praise her enough. And she is the star of the show.
She is
the star. Of course, obviously.
It took us the whole podcast episode to get to the real star
of the show. To get the real star of the show.
Pom.
To Pom. Yeah.
To Pom.
And there's in the older Queen's story, there's so many more Pomeranians running around.
I know, they've multiplied. She's been
tons
busy,
of them.
Pom.
Oh, so busy. But she was the most well-behaved dog out of all of them.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Extraordinary pup. Tom, the director, was showing us audition tapes and pictures of the dogs. It's hilarious.
Dogs actually audition?
Yeah, little videos of them just sort of sitting there, going about their... And they're basically like, what's the cutest? What's the cutest? Is it well-behaved?
They're not like, give me drama, give me sadness.
I mean, maybe in some productions. We haven't got time for that on Queen Charlotte. We haven't got time for that.
There's enough emotions going on.
Oh,
we
God.
Can't deal with yours.
We're enough as it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a nightmare.
Yeah.
We don't need a nightmare dog.
Yeah.